Imagine waking up one morning, grabbing your briefcase, heading to work, only to be accused of a crime you didn't commit, by your own neighbor. She's the HOA president. She's got a red door, a fake smile, and a personal vendetta. And somehow, she convinced the police that I, an innocent man, vandalized her car, harassed her, and threatened her life. But here's the twist, she staged the entire crime herself. This isn't just a story about a racist Karen and a crooked HOA. It's about a woman who turned her hatred into a weapon, used the justice system like a puppet show, and almost ruined an innocent man's life, mine. She had photos. Witnesses. A civil lawsuit already filed. And she knew exactly what she was doing. Because she'd researched it. She wasn't just trying to kick me out of the neighborhood. She was trying to destroy me, my name, my freedom, my future. But karma had a plan of its own. Because the one thing she didn't count on, was a camera. And that's where this insane story begins. This isn't fiction. This is what happens when racism, power, and entitlement collide in a so-called safe neighborhood. And I have every detail to prove it, /n, so if you think you've seen the worst of Karen's stories, think again. This one goes deeper, and it ends very differently, /n backhand index pointing down. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Orange heart, like this video if you've ever dealt with a toxic neighbor. Bell, and don't forget to subscribe. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. You'd think living in a quiet suburb would offer peace. That's why I moved to Pinehurst Heights, tree-lined streets, good schools, and a neighborhood so still you could hear sprinklers start before dawn. But I didn't know that behind one red door lived a woman who would plan to destroy me, one passive-aggressive glance at a time. Her name was Karen. Not the internet meme kind. The real kind. And unfortunately, she was also the head of our HOA. From the moment she moved in, 6 months before the chaos started, Karen made it clear she didn't like people like me. She didn't say it out loud, she never had to. She did it through stares. Through petty complaints. Through the kind of tightly wound smiles that screamed, "You don't belong here." At first, I brushed it off. I'm a 32-year-old software engineer, I work long hours, I keep to myself. I figured maybe she was just overly cautious. But over time, it became impossible to ignore. Karen watched me. From behind her blinds in the morning. While pretending to water her hydrangeas in the afternoon. And again in the evening, standing on her porch with a phone in hand, not calling anyone, just waiting. She'd already called the police on me twice. Once, for loitering outside my own car. Another time, for playing jazz too loud, at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. I should have taken that as a warning. But I didn't think it would escalate. Then came a Tuesday in early September. I remember because I was running late to a meeting. I rushed outside in my navy blue business suit, briefcase in hand, ready to hop into my black Honda Civic, when I saw her. Karen was already there. Standing by her yellow Accord like a guard dog. Her face twisted into something between glee and fury. "Excuse me," she barked. I stopped in my tracks. She was pointing at her car like it had been hit by a meteor. The passenger side window was shattered, a spiderweb of glass clinging to the frame. One of her front tires had gone completely flat, the rubber peeling off the rim like a burst balloon. "You did this," she screamed, loud enough for the whole street to hear. "I saw you." She said it with the conviction of a stage actress, voice trembling, eyes wide. I almost expected cameras to roll in from behind the bushes. "Karen," I said calmly, "I've been inside all night. I literally just walked out my door." But she wasn't interested in logic. She was already dialing. "I need the police," she told the dispatcher. "A black man just vandalized my car. He's threatening me. I'm scared for my life." And just like that, my life quiet, professional, uneventful, turned into a weaponized accusation. One I didn't see coming. But Karen did. She had been planning this for months. The police arrived faster than I could finish processing what had just happened. One minute I was calmly telling Karen I had nothing to do with her busted car, the next, red and blue lights washed over the street, and my stomach dropped. Two officers stepped out of the cruiser, Officer Martinez, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a skeptical expression, and Officer Chen, younger and sharper, already pulling out a notepad. Both looked like they had seen their fair share of HOA-fueled neighborhood drama. Karen launched into her performance before they could even ask a question. "Officers. Thank God you're here. It's him, he smashed my car window with a crowbar. I saw him at 2 a.m. through my bedroom window. I was too scared to come outside, but I have witnesses. He slashed my tire and threatened me. I'm terrified." I stood there, briefcase still in hand, unsure whether to laugh or be afraid. I glanced down at my watch. 8:27 a.m. "Sir," Officer Martinez said, "can you tell us where you were last night around 2 a.m. "I was at home, apartment 3B, I answered. "I was watching Netflix with my girlfriend. Probably fell asleep on the couch around 1:30. "You have proof of that?" he asked. "I can show you my streaming history," I said. "You can also talk to my neighbors. I didn't leave my apartment." But Karen wasn't done. She had photos. She pulled out her phone, swiped dramatically, and showed them images of the damage. Timestamps, 2:17 a.m., 2:23 a.m., 2:31 a.m. multiple angles. Different lighting. Officer Chen frowned. "You said you didn't go outside, ma'am. These photos look like they were taken right next to the car." Karen blinked. Then stammered, I took them this morning. I was upset, and I forgot I already told you I saw it happen. That's all." The inconsistency was obvious. But still, I'm a young black man. She's an older white woman with tears in her eyes. "Officers," Karen suddenly declared, "I need to tell you something else. He's been harassing me for weeks. Loud music. Suspicious people coming and going. I even saw him with binoculars looking into my windows." "Binoculars?" I repeated, incredulous. "I don't even own binoculars." But it didn't matter. Something in Officer Martinez's expression shifted. The atmosphere changed. The doubt in their eyes began to harden into suspicion. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us for questioning." I froze. "You're being arrested for vandalism and harassment." The handcuffs clicked. Cold metal. I turned my head just in time to see Karen smiling. Not just satisfied. Triumphant. County jail doesn't hit you all at once. It sinks in slow, like cold water filling a cracked basement. The second those cell doors closed behind me, the gravity of my situation pressed into my chest. I wasn't just accused anymore. I was officially in the system. My name, my job, my clean record, all reduced to a file, a number, and a bunk. My cellmate was Rico. A broad-shouldered guy who looked like he could bench press a Buick but turned out to be a decent human being. He was in for unpaid parking tickets, which I didn't even know could land you in jail. "Man, you got set up real bad," he said after I told him my story. "That lady didn't just make something up. She's been studying you. That's a plan. That's premeditated." He wasn't wrong. The more time I had to think, the more the dots connected. Karen had been watching me for months. Following my schedule. Fabricating a paper trail. Calling the HOA. Spreading rumors. She knew exactly what kind of story would stick to a guy like me in a town like this. That realization hurt more than the cold mattress. But it wasn't the end. Sarah, my girlfriend, wasn't sitting idle while I was locked up. She worked as a paralegal and knew how to dig. She started with the neighbors. Mrs. Johnson from 4A said Karen had been asking her strange questions: what time I came and went, whether I had a girlfriend, if I'd ever been arrested. Surveillance, but make it neighborly. Then came the real shocker. Sarah found that Karen had filed multiple complaints about me, with the HOA, with my landlord, and even with the city. Noise complaints, unlicensed business activities, suspicious visitors. All false. All filed with perfect timing and language. Like someone had been coaching her. Then, the worst part, Karen had already filed for a restraining order against me while I was in custody. Claimed I had been lurking outside her windows. That I threatened her safety. She even hired a civil attorney, the county's most expensive one. Sarah called me through the monitored jail line. Her voice shook with anger. She's not just trying to put you in jail, babe. She's trying to sue you. She's going for the whole package: jail, job, your savings, your reputation. Everything. I pressed the phone to my ear and just nodded. My hands were trembling. This wasn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. This was war. 18 days into my incarceration, Hope arrived wearing a navy blazer and a confident smile. My public defender, Janet Rodriguez, had something tucked under her arm, a thick folder stuffed with documents and a gleam in her eye I hadn't seen before. "You ready to go home, Gabriel?" she asked. I blinked. What? Janet laid the folder down on the scratched metal table in the visitation room. "Your girlfriend Sarah? She found something. Something big. And it's going to blow this case wide open." She pulled out a printout, a still image from a Ring doorbell camera. The timestamp read 2:45 a.m. The frame showed a grainy figure in a bathrobe and slippers approaching a yellow Honda Accord with something metallic in her hand. It was Karen. "She vandalized her own car," Janet said. "And she filmed herself doing it." Apparently, Mr. Peterson, a quiet neighbor 2 doors down, had a doorbell camera with a wide enough angle to capture both his own driveway and part of the street where Karen's car sat. He'd checked the footage after Sarah asked around, and what he found was jaw-dropping. "Look," Janet said, flipping through a sequence of stills. At 2:17 a.m., nobody's outside. No figure, no movement, nothing. But at 2:45, Karen appears. "Watch." She showed me the video on a secured tablet. Karen shuffled toward her own car, hammer in hand, and methodically shattered the passenger side window. She glanced around once or twice, but otherwise stayed focused. Then she pulled something from her robe, a blade, maybe a knife, and began slashing the tire. Then came the photos. At 3:15 a.m., Karen stepped outside again and started photographing the damage from multiple angles. The very same photos she would later show the police as proof I had attacked her vehicle. "That's not all," Janet continued. "The Ring camera had audio. Muffled, but usable." She pressed play. Karen's voice came through in crackles, but the words were unmistakable: "Let's see how he likes jail. No one's going to believe a black man over me." I sat back in my chair. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I don't even know what to say." Janet smiled. "You don't have to. The video says it all." Armed with the footage, Janet pushed for an emergency hearing. The district attorney reviewed the evidence and dropped all charges within 48 hours. Karen didn't just lose her case, she walked straight into her own demise. But Janet wasn't done. "We've got a lot more than this now," she said. "Phone records, email drafts, search history. She planned this, Gabriel. She researched how to frame someone. She even drafted contingency plans." Backup lies, false witnesses, everything. I was free, but Karen's real nightmare had just begun. Karen's house of cards didn't just collapse, it exploded. The morning after my release, Janet and Sarah met me in my apartment with breakfast, legal pads, and a plan. "She's not done," Janet said between sips of coffee. "And neither are we." Sarah, ever the relentless researcher, laid out a binder on my kitchen table. Inside were copies of Karen's complaints, all dated, all carefully constructed, a trail of bureaucratic sabotage. Noise violations, HOA disputes, anonymous city complaints, she's been laying the groundwork for months, Sarah explained. But what stunned me wasn't just her planning, it was her arrogance. While I was behind bars, Karen wasn't hiding. She was bragging. Mr. Peterson shared that Karen had posted cryptic Facebook updates about cleaning up the neighborhood. She had even boasted in her book club that she taught a lesson to a certain someone who thought rules didn't apply. Her own sister called the police after overhearing a phone conversation in which Karen said, "The best part is, I made it look like he did it to himself. They never question people like me." Now, the tide was turning. The DA's office opened a new investigation, this time, into Karen. Janet filed a formal motion to unseal Karen's digital records. What we found next turned the case from a local scandal into a potential federal crime. Her search history? Full of phrases like, "how to make vandalism look real," "false police report penalty," and "how to sue someone for emotional distress." But it didn't end there. Karen had written draft emails, full-blown blueprints of her scheme. In one, she listed steps to frame Gabriel and detailed ways to stage her car damage. In another, she mentioned fabricating a drug accusation if her original plan failed. "She didn't just hate you," Janet said. "She wanted to profit from you." Karen had already filed a civil suit for $50,000 in emotional trauma, and had retained a top-tier attorney under false pretenses. When her lawyer found out about the evidence, he immediately dropped her case and reported her to the Bar Association. Then came the media. Once the ring footage leaked, anonymously, of course. The local news picked it up. Headlines splashed across every outlet, HOA president accused of faking attack on neighbor, the story spread like wildfire. Her workplace suspended her. Her neighbors turned against her. Her family disowned her. Her carefully curated mask, the perfect suburban guardian, was gone. The woman who tried to ruin my life became the city's most infamous liar. And we weren't done. With Janet's help, we filed a countersuit for wrongful arrest, defamation, emotional distress, and malicious prosecution. Karen had weaponized the system. Now, the system was aiming back. By the time our civil countersuit hit the courthouse steps, Karen's name had become synonymous with suburban scandal. But this wasn't just about public humiliation. It was about accountability and closure. Janet and her legal team filed for damages across 4 categories: wrongful arrest, malicious prosecution, defamation, and emotional trauma. We demanded $750,000. Not out of revenge, but to show that this system, the one Karen tried to weaponize, still had the capacity to defend the innocent. Karen tried to fight back. She retained a new lawyer, much cheaper than the first, and filed a motion claiming she had been emotionally manipulated by me. That she had acted out of fear, not malice. That I had intimidated her into believing her life was in danger. But none of it held. The court had the ring footage. They had her audio. They had her search history. They had draft emails she'd written to herself, planning every step. What little credibility she had left collapsed under cross-examination. Her explanations contradicted her own statements. Her witnesses backed out. Her lawyer withdrew halfway through depositions. And the judge? She saw through it all. In a statement during summary judgment, the judge wrote, This case reflects not just a personal vendetta but a systematic, premeditated effort to exploit racial stereotypes, misuse legal processes, and inflict harm for personal gain. The plaintiff's rights were not only violated, they were trampled. The ruling came down hard. Karen was ordered to pay full restitution, $750,000 in damages, plus court fees and interest. Her house, the one with the red door, was seized to satisfy part of the judgment. Her retirement account? Garnished. Any future income she makes? Subject to wage withholding. But money wasn't the only blow. The court also imposed a permanent restraining order. Karen could not live within 50 miles of me. Could not contact me, Sarah, or any member of my family. Could not mention me publicly, directly or indirectly, on any media channel. She became a legal ghost. Meanwhile, my life finally began to rebuild. Sarah and I used the settlement to pay off student loans, buy a house in a better neighborhood, and invest in causes that matter. I started speaking publicly about criminal justice reform, about false accusations, about HOA abuse. My inbox filled with letters, from people who had faced similar betrayals. I wasn't alone. But I was lucky. Because not everyone has a Sarah. Or a Janet. Or a neighbor with a doorbell camera. And that's what makes this story matter. Not the ending, but the fight. The truth clawed its way out, even when the odds were stacked. Karen tried to erase me. But in the end, she wrote the case study that made me stronger. And as for the HOA? Let's just say they held a very quiet election the following spring. No one ran against the new president. And no one ever mentioned Karen's name again. What happened to me wasn't just a personal attack, it was a mirror reflecting something deeper about the world we live in. It showed how easily fear, prejudice, and unchecked power can spiral into something dangerous when left unchallenged. But it also revealed something far more important, the strength of truth, the power of community, and the resilience we often forget we have until we're tested. This story is a reminder that integrity matters, even when no one's watching. That character is built not in comfort, but in crisis. When someone tries to tear your life apart, you learn quickly who you really are. And who's willing to stand beside you. Sarah, Janet, Mr. Peterson, they didn't have to help me. But they chose to. Because they believed in something bigger than just winning a case. They believed in fairness. In justice. In doing what's right even when it's hard. That's what saved me, not just a camera or a courtroom win, but people choosing courage over silence. And Karen? She reminds us that hatred always turns inward. That those who manipulate, exploit, and deceive often fall by their own hand. She thought she was building a trap for me. Instead, she built a monument to her own downfall. If you're watching this and you've ever been falsely accused, silenced, or overlooked, know this, you are not alone. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And even when the system gets it wrong, there are still people out there fighting to make it right. So let this not just be entertainment. Let it be a reminder. To listen more carefully, to stand up more boldly, and to live your life with the kind of dignity no one can take away from you. If this story meant something to you, if it made you think, feel, or reflect, please help me share it. Backhand index pointing down, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Thumbs up, like this video to support stories that matter. Bell, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, so you never miss another real-life story with real-life lessons. Thank you for being here. You make all of this possible.